We're at very, very interesting, pivotal times in history. And as a friend of mine said to me just recently, this pivotal moment is one in 100 years. So what lies ahead of us will be quite different from what we have experienced in at least the last 40 years.
We're standing at a truly rare crossroads in history, a moment so pivotal that it only comes once every 100 years. The global economy, as we've known it for the past 4 decades, is being reshaped right before our eyes. Today, we dive into a fascinating discussion with financial expert Simon Hunt, who brings decades of insight into how gold is poised to reclaim its place as a cornerstone of the global monetary system. Simon walks us through the shifting dynamics as central banks diversify away from fiat currencies, including the dollar, and turn back to gold, a move that signals profound changes ahead for the world's financial order. With the BRICS nations planning bold steps toward gold-backed currencies, the stage is set for a major transformation that will affect everything from international trade to your investments. This isn't just about precious metals or investment portfolios. It's about a fundamental recalibration of economic power. As Simon explains, the traditional dominance of the US dollar is being challenged by emerging alliances that seek to stabilize their currencies with tangible assets, providing a new layer of security in a volatile world. We're witnessing the dawn of a new monetary architecture, one that could redefine how nations transact, trade, and even compete on the global stage. For those paying attention, this signals opportunities and risks that will shape the financial landscape for years to come. So stay tuned as we unpack Simon Hunt's detailed forecast, including potential recessions, market corrections, and the inflationary pressures that lie ahead. This is essential knowledge for anyone looking to understand the forces driving today's economic shifts and how to position themselves wisely in the months and years ahead. If you haven't already, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and enable the notification bell so you don't miss any of the in-depth analysis coming your way. We appreciate the support and hope you enjoy the video.
Gold is coming back as a collateral within the global monetary system. You have central banks that are diversifying their portfolios of fiat currencies, which includes the dollar, or buying gold. I think I've said for a long time that one day Beijing will announce that its currency is supported by the gold which its citizens own, which when you do the sums taken off the Shanghai Gold Exchange since its inception in 2002, you come to something like 25,000 tons. But I think the next kicker, and this is slightly speculative, is that during the BRICS summit meeting in Rio, I think it's in July, whether they announced it or not, they will have formulated a plan to back their currencies with gold. And that will be linked also to the Chinese currency. The details are a bit sketchy at the moment, but emerging from that summit meeting, I don't know whether they will announce it or not, will be a BRICS currency backed by physical gold. And there will be in BRICS countries gold vaults into which each country will deposit so much gold, so that if, for instance, Iran is trading with, say, South Africa, there is a gold vault in each country, so they just switch their gold. Depending on, the currency will be linked to gold, so the gold just swaps to the amount of the currency. I think something like that is under discussion. The conclusion that I've come to is that we will be in recession, that we will have an equity correction sometime in the summer, followed by a second correction towards the end of the year. Sometime before year end, America the Fed will be cutting rates because of recession, and the government will be introducing their tax cuts. We go into 2026 with fiscal and monetary stimulus at a point when inflation will actually be starting to rise again. 2026, for the next 18 to 24 months, will be a global recovery with a high inflation bias. US and global inflation by sometime in 2027 in high double-digit numbers, which means that long bonds like 10-year treasuries will be over 10%. The less benign forecasts,
End on a good note.
which I give a 40 to 60% chance, is that governments and central banks won't be able to inflate their way out of the system, and that we have ongoing recession into 2028.
As Simon Hunt points out, we are witnessing a historic shift in the global monetary system, one that only comes around once in a century. Central banks worldwide, especially in emerging economies, are increasingly moving away from traditional fiat currencies, including the US dollar, and are turning to gold as a core reserve asset. This isn't just speculation. China, through the Shanghai Gold Exchange, has already amassed roughly 25,000 tons of gold since 2002, signaling a serious commitment to this shift. Looking ahead, the BRICS nations are poised to make a game-changing move. Hunt suggests that at the upcoming BRICS summit, there may be a formal plan to back their currencies with physical gold. Imagine a future where gold vaults in member countries like Iran and South Africa facilitate direct gold-backed currency swaps, bypassing the dollar system entirely. This would represent a fundamental realignment of global trade and finance, challenging the long-standing dominance of the US dollar. On the economic front, Hunt foresees a challenging year ahead, with a recession likely lasting into early next year. He expects significant corrections in equity markets over the summer and again towards the end of 2025. However, by late 2025 and into 2026, governments and central banks will respond with aggressive fiscal and monetary stimulus to jumpstart growth, even as inflation begins to rise sharply. Hunt's forecast for 2026 is a global recovery with a pronounced inflation bias, pushing inflation into high double digits by 2027. This would mean soaring yields on long-term bonds, such as 10-year treasuries, climbing above 10%. There is a less optimistic scenario too, a roughly 40 to 60% chance that inflation and recession persist beyond 2027, dragging the global economy through extended turmoil. For investors and citizens alike, this means the economic landscape over the next few years will be volatile and uncertain, but with gold positioned as a critical safe haven amid the upheaval.
Well, it does appear that the yen carry trade is unwinding. So far, it's unwinding in an orderly fashion, probably as a result of central bank maneuverings. It's only going to take an accident somewhere within the financial system or a geopolitical event that would cause orderly unwinding to become disorderly, in that maybe there is a huge move by Japan and America through Japan's holdings of US treasuries to use that as the base to develop a sovereign wealth fund. Now, this is only crossed my path today, so I don't want to go into it, but it's an interesting concept. Against that, there are those in Japan, their subservient attitude to America has run its course, and that on long-term planning, the probability is that China will be the dominant power in Asia, and that is where future growth will lie. And therefore, Japan, South Korea, And Japan, as they've already had meetings, could become the platform for a much wider Asian alliance in competition to America. But this really all depends on what is Trump really after. Does behind all his posturing lie the possibility of joining the BRICS multilateral world? In order to do that, he has to cause these disruptions both internally in America and externally. However, I think for the moment anyway, our stance is that he wants to strangle BRICS because of their future authority and power, if allowed to mature, which would then be a risk to America's hegemony. So we're at very, very interesting, pivotal times in history. And as a friend of mine said to me just recently, this pivotal moment is one in 100 years. So what lies ahead of us will be quite different from what we have experienced in at least the last 40 years.
The global financial landscape is undergoing profound shifts, with long-standing alliances and economic strategies being re-evaluated in real time. Japan's careful unwinding of the yen-carry trade, possibly paving the way for new sovereign wealth initiatives, highlights the subtle yet powerful maneuvers shaping the future. Meanwhile, the potential realignment of Asian powers, with Japan and South Korea possibly pivoting towards a broader alliance centered on China and the BRICS framework, signals a seismic shift in regional and global influence. The contest for dominance between America and this emerging bloc will define the next era of geopolitics and economics. What's clear is that these movements aren't isolated events. They are interconnected parts of a larger, century-defining transformation. The current tension, disruptions, and strategic posturing all point to a world where the old rules no longer apply, and new power structures will emerge. For investors, policymakers, and citizens alike, understanding these shifts is crucial. The coming years will be marked by volatility, uncertainty, and opportunity, a period unlike any we've experienced in the last 40 years. We are, as Simon Hunt so aptly puts it, living through a pivotal moment that comes once every 100 years. The choices made now, and how nations and markets respond, will shape the global order for decades to come. If you found this discussion insightful, please like the video, share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more in-depth analysis on today's most critical financial and geopolitical shifts. Your engagement helps us bring you the content that matters most. Thanks for watching.